Hey everyone, today I've got a pretty neat little approach you can use if you're just starting to get into playing jazz and cocktail and blues and kind of improvisatory styles in that vein on the piano. It's what I call two-part improvisation. It's not really my invention, lots of people have done it before, but the basic idea is that you're just playing one note at a time in the right hand and one note at a time in the left hand. The reason I call it two-part is because it made me think of you might be familiar with Bach's two-part inventions, where you've just got a single thing going on in the right hand and a single thing going on in the left hand. And you can make that work for jazz in some really quite cool ways. Like I said, just playing one note at a time in each hand. You know, just kind of working up ideas without having to think about tons and tons of harmony and theory and things like that. Yeah, it's just a really nice way, not just of starting to improvise, but of also getting your two hands working together with this kind of thing, which, as we all know, is the big challenge. So what I'm going to do today is take you through improvising on a chord progression using this technique. Okay, we're going to start with the right hand because really the right hand leads in this style. And once again, I'm using Quartet here. This is the third of 3 sponsored videos I'm making for the guys at Quartet. I absolutely love this app. I've talked about it in the last couple of videos. Basically, it's a play along app where you follow the chords. You know, you open something up and it gives you a bunch of chords to follow. If you can see that, I'll put some screenshots in shortly. But it also plays along with you with actual real instruments, and you can select what's playing at any one time. So you can have the whole quartet of piano, bass, drums and sax, or you can just, you know, have particular combinations of those instruments. And that's what we're going to be using today. Absolutely wonderful app. Like I said, these guys are sponsoring me to make this video, but I only make sponsored videos about apps I love, and I think this one's wonderful. I'm using it pretty much every day myself in my own practice, and it's great for people who are playing jazz, learning jazz at all kind of levels, really. So do check it out. I've written an article about it on my Patreon, which I'll link below. I'll put a link to the Quartet download page and all the links on the App Store all down below. Anyway, what we're going to do today is have a look at this progression in the style of Angel Eyes. Okay, the key in the app is C minor, the kind of native key, but I've used the key change function to just move it up a little bit into D minor. You can do that in Quartet, just move up a couple of tones in either direction. And I've got it set at a fairly steady tempo, 60 beats per minute. I'm not going to go right from the start, okay? I'm going to go straight into an A section here. And all I'm going to do is set Quartet going just with bass and drums, okay? And I'm going to improvise just in the right hand a single note melody over the top. You don't need to play along with Quartet. You don't need to play along with recording to do this. I just find it kind of makes things easier because you've got the chords in front of you. It's telling you what chord to play when and all of that kind of thing. So it's a whole bunch of things. You know, Quartet looks after a whole bunch of things you don't have to think about. While, you know, you're focusing on the improvisation, and also gives you it gives your subconscious, I guess, the kind of contextual information of what's going on, yeah, in the background harmonically. Okay, so let me get it going. I'll start on the bar before, the measure before, so we've got 4 beats in. Let me turn my volume up a little bit so I can hear what I'm doing. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. And then let's just pause there. Now let's just think about the very basics of what I was doing there. One note at a time, yeah? And the first thing people always ask when I start talking about improvisation is, oh, what scales were you using? Really important thing to say is that I don't consciously think about scales too much when I'm improvising. I don't think, well, first I want to play this scale, then I'm going to play this scale, then I'm going to play this scale. It's a little bit more complex and a little bit more fluid than that. But just to give you an idea, very roughly, the kind of scales I was focusing on were D minor pentatonic, yeah? And often I was playing a kind of bluesy version of that, really leaning into this A flat or G sharp, whatever you want to call it. So that was kind of my core, okay? I was also using quite a few notes every now and then from the D harmonic minor scale. And that's useful because it gives me the B flat and the C sharp. And if you just take a quick glance at some of the chords we've got here, we've got things like D minor, obviously, E7 and A7. And can you see already we're using a couple of black notes that have cropped up in those two scales that I showed you. So the C sharp we get from D harmonic minor, the A flat there comes from that bluesy thing that I was playing, and various other of the chords incorporate notes from that bunch of scales. Okay, I'm not going to dig too deeply into chords today. Really, we're thinking about the two-part playing. Yeah, come to the left hand in a second, like I said. And what I'm doing when I'm playing around with those notes and those scales is, yes, using a little bit of experience. I know that this note works well at a particular time, so I'll do it. I'm relying on a little bit of muscle memory, so-called, even though it's in your brain, it's not in your muscles, to just know what will fall under my fingers. And that's something you need to develop when you're learning how to improvise on the piano, yeah? But I'm also thinking a little bit about, okay, I've got an A chord coming up, an A7 chord. Maybe I could go for the C sharp, which maybe wouldn't fit quite so well if I were just using, you know, if I were playing over a B flat chord or something. You know, you'd have to try it and see. But all of my thinking is quite kind of high level, quite strategic. It's not, now I will improvise on this scale, now I will improvise on this scale, now I will improvise on this scale, yeah? It's much more about, and certainly the way I learned how to do it was to play around with that stuff and then gradually build up knowledge of what note works over what chord and, you know, in what location and what doesn't, yeah? And that really is the most reliable way to do this kind of thing. If you are relatively new, really, really important, this is a very easy style to get into. You just limit the number of notes that you play. Okay, I've talked about this method of starting improvisation 1,000 times. So you just play to start with maybe the D and the F, yeah, you know, and you improvise rhythmically. Or let's make it a bit more interesting and give ourselves D, F and A flat. Let's go back to the top of that A section again, and let me show you how you might do that. Okay, just playing around with those three notes, and it's not always going to sound great, okay, but it will at least sound kind of passable, and it will start to give you a sense of how improvisation works, and then you build out to 4 notes, 5 notes, 6 notes over a period of time, okay. A lot of learning improvisation is just getting the repetitions in, yeah. A lot of it's like being in the gym and just kind of building your confidence with things. In terms of the kind of melodic shapes that you play, try and come up with little phrases. A really good thing to do, and this is something that quite high-level jazz players do, but you can think about it now, is think in terms of enclosures. So think, you know, I've got this note coming up, I want to land on the F when the B flat chord comes along. I'm going to play some notes above it and notes below it and circle in on it. Okay, I'm going to kind of enclose it. Okay, that's my target note. There's loads of stuff out there on YouTube about enclosures. I'm not going to dig into it loads now, but that is one way of kind of shaping melodies. Okay, so the big question you're asking is, great, I can practice doing that. What about the left hand? The left hand in this style is super, super easy. All you have to do is play the root note of each chord. Okay, so just looking at our chord progression here to start with, we've got D minor, then E7, A7, D minor, B flat 7. Yeah, so all I'm doing is playing the root note of each chord. Now, you will find that a little bit of a quantum leap if if you've got your right hand reasonably confident, and there's a lot to be said for really working on the right hand to start with. You'll find it a little bit of a leap to suddenly start playing single notes in the left hand, even though it's really simple, but stick with it, okay? Because and even if you're just playing the same pattern every time, the way to do this is to pick one progression to start with. If you're using Quartet, something like this one of the slower ones that's just going to give you a steady beat, Use the play along function if you're using play along to kind of support you, so you can both hear and see you're doing the right thing. It really kind of helps. And gradually push the two together. And always expect, and I say this so often to piano learners, always expect right hand and left hand together, even though that left hand is simple, to be much more difficult than just playing each one separately, kind of doubled, if you see what I mean. Yeah. So expect that to take some time, and don't be surprised. Don't think it's some failing on your part if it takes longer than you think. The way to really make it work is to get the right hand improvisation quite comfortable, even if you're doing it in quite a simple way, then practice the left hand quite a few times by itself and gradually put them together. Okay, I hope you found that useful. Let me know what you think in the comments below. The whole kind of, two-part improvisation thing I think is pretty handy. And do check out Quartet. Like I said, this is the third of the 3 videos I've done, but I might bring it back in the future because it is such a useful tool, such a useful app to have. Okay, happy piano playing. I'll see you next time.